So the Singapore's Department of Statistics have recently just released quite a few of the macro data about how Singaporeans in general are doing in the last 1 or 2 years. So this data is accurate as of 2023. So just to share, I think the average monthly household income from all sources has increased from 2017 on a per household basis. It's roughly around 12,600 to 15,400 in 2023. So that's I think 5-year time frame. On a per member basis, it increased from 4.2k to 5.2k. That's roughly both in lockstep a 4.1% increase per annum. So actually, if you go to the MOM's website and you take the latest income summary table, the median gross monthly income from employment of all full-time employed residents have again increased from the 5.2 in 2023 to 5.5 in 2024. And that's where you know that the Singapore economy is strong, and that's why it continues fueling our housing prices. But anyhow, let's go down to a few more numbers that they actually shared in the infographic. They try to strata them into the different income groups based on percentile and also the types of dwelling. So there's some annual changes in terms of their monthly household income. I think based on the largest increase in terms of monthly household income is actually between the 41 to 60th percentile, a 4.4% increase compared to the highest percentile, which is the 81st to 100th. They only increased 4.3% to roughly 34k a month. That's still a very high household income, but I would presume that we always have the mentality that only the rich always get richer, right? Then you don't uplift the bottom half. But it seems like it's those stuck in the middle, the 41 to 60th percentile, they saw the highest increase in monthly household income. However, I think if you draw a stark contrast to those in terms of the types of dwelling, surprise, those staying in landed property, they see the highest percentage increase in terms of their monthly household income. Plus 6% to roughly 40.8k per monthly household income. So that's the distinction there. Of course, we actually do see that those staying in the HDB 1 room and 2 room, they are actually the second highest in terms of increment. So that's also a positive development in trying to uplift those in the lower rung of the percentile distribution. Secondly, I think when we look at household expenditure, of course, you see it increasing in lockstep, but interestingly enough, actually household expenditure increased at a much lower quantum or much lower speed compared to income. Income increased 4.1% per annum. Household expenditure only increased at 2.8% per annum, even with all the inflation talks and whatnot. So the per household expenditure monthly, it's at around 5.9k for 2023. For per member, it's at around 1.9k. And of course, the largest distribution, the allocation, largest part is definitely going to housing, and it actually went up to roughly 30%. Food is the second largest at 20%, and then you have transport at 13%. So maybe you can talk a little bit about this idea of a ballooning part of your expenditure going to allocated to housing. And the last part I think we wanted to share is that when we compare it to just roughly look at the layperson, those staying in HDB, I think in 2023, most of us spend an average monthly of roughly 4.6k on household expenditure. And the interesting thing is that when you calculate the spending, if you exclude out the CPF, because the first citation or the first stats that we have is inclusive of everything, meaning CPF included. But if you look at cash alone, meaning how the household give out the distribution, housing actually dropped to the third. And the largest pie that people spend on is actually on food. It's around 1.2k out of the 4.6. So I think I just wanted to expand the discussion here. Some of the headline statistics on whether you guys have any comments about income growth, expenditure growth of general Singaporeans over the last 5 to 8 years. Kelvin, I think you recently just made a video talking about how normal Singaporean can hit 1 million by 40 years old. So maybe you want to share a few tips and tricks and your perspective when you do the research around income and expenditure for Singaporeans.
Tips and tricks. I think the biggest thing is like you have to enter university in order to earn. It's not in order lah. In order to earn a high income, going to university is like the easiest step lah. Because other methods involve entrepreneurship, right? Which has a much higher failure rate. So for university, you go in, you come out, you straight away get around 4k salary. Then from there, your progression will bring you to about like 10k salary by 40 years old. Yeah, I think Budi can relate. I think Budi way past 10K a year. So in order to hit 1 million, university is the easiest path. I guess also include other stuff like prudent spending, don't go and buy so many labubus, those kind of stuff. You also need to invest your money. So that's the requirements. Find a good job,
Actually,
invest your money. Yes.
Actually, Kelvin, I wanted to ask, based on your research, right? I've seen on the MOM website about this income table, right? And I was a bit confused with the wording of how they worded the breakdown. So maybe I just show here, right? Like when they talk about gross monthly income from employment, we always think about it as the headline number that you talk to your employers. Meaning, let's say you get a 4K income. So your gross is 4K, but that also includes the 20% contribution to CPF, but it doesn't include the employer part because we know the CPF system is 20% come out from your own paycheck, 17% the employer will match, and then this 37% goes into your CPF accounts breakdown. But actually, when I look at this MOM table, they included a very interesting term here. So, and I quote, median gross monthly income from employment, parentheses, including employer CPF contribution, ending parenthesis, of all full-time employed residents. So like I said, right, 2023 to 2024, it increased again like $300 to 5.5K. So I just wanted to check, right, the 5.5K, is it gross plus employee, which is your real headline gross, or does it also include that 17% additional, which means that it's 117% of your total income when they cite this 5.5K number?
I was just assuming without the employer's contribution.
But if we do follow the word, right, like based on which is to say the 5.5K is the 117%, which means to say the real gross income, including your own one, which is the employee part only, is 4.7K. So 4.7K should be the more accurate way. I mean, if I read the disclaimer correctly, 4.7 is the real gross, 5.5 is those if you add in the employer one. So that's just my own understanding. I don't know whether Eric, you have the same point of view.
Yeah, I think that is just your gross right, without the employer's contribution. That's my understanding. But apparently, you say the phrasing is different.
It's a bit weird but anyway, this is just a side point But anyhow, I think just from your perspective on income growth and expenditure growth, right? I believe you saw some of the stats. Do you have any thoughts on that? Do you want to share?
I think the income growth was quite okay, quite moderate. Nothing like super duper surprising but we do see a more significant step up recently. Yeah, maybe because of all the inflation and everything. So harder to get hire people, so they have to offer like higher salary. No, I don't see any like abnormalities. Yeah, unless you say that the 5.5 was including the employer contribution, then I will feel that that will be on a super low side because it will mean that your take home is like 3,000 plus, which is a bit hard to survive in this current climate 3,000 plus, especially if you are having a family and all that. So I still think that it should be without employer contribution, the 5.5.
These are just average numbers, right? So I think usually if you just look at average, you can't really know what's going on because everyone's situation is different. For example, someone could be earning, let's say, $3,000. You might think that, it's hard life to live if you only earn less than 3,000, right? But the person could be staying with the parent, just graduated, don't have a high-paying job, but still able to get something close to 3,000, right? But staying at home means that don't have to pay rent, all this. So can still be, it depends. Like you have to, the salary need to match with the person's situations to know that whether the person is living a hard life or something like a normal life, right? So hard to conclude anything from just looking at these few numbers. But on aggregate level, as long as things are going up, I think it's all good.
I believe you also have maybe a few anecdotes to share, right? I don't know. I let you share the story that I think you said you were quite surprised about the starting salaries and how they are benchmarking the salaries in today's time.
I mean, don't judge based on my personal observations. I mean, it's not just me, right? If you can just ask around, looking at people jumping jobs, right? Changing companies, you can see that the increment, I think especially those who's, have less than 5 years of working experience, right? You just jump from one company to the other company, easily you can get 10, 15, 20, even 20% increment, right? Part of this increment is to reflect the experience that you have gained. You could be working at your current company for 2 years, 3 years, then you just make a jump, right? Then you get the jump in salary. The other part is actually, broadly speaking, the inflation is here for a few years already. So I'll say the average salary already went up quite a fair bit. So say, for example, let's say 5 years ago, you just close your eyes and then just time skip that 5 years, right? And you may think that, oh, this kind of role, this kind of level, this kind of experience required could be earning 5,000. Now I'm telling you that, oh, it's no longer 5,000. If 5 years ago it was 5,000, now could be already 10,000, So it is quite a big jump in terms of wages, especially for those highly demanded professions, job. Yeah.
So, meaning to say also in your area of your own industry, right? They don't only just see this kind of increments that is on a broad-based level. They're a lot faster than...
Generally speaking, wages went up quite a fair bit just in the past 5 years. I'm saying that this not just to say that, oh, inflation is here. I'm contrasting this, right, compared to, let's say, the 5 years prior to that. So, there was a period, let's say before COVID, right, there was a period where the wages are going up just, like very slow, inflation also very low. It's just that the past 5 years is a bit abnormal compared to his historical period. I saw it based on all these anecdote data and examples.
Okay, Kelvin?
I have one interesting data. So this one, it shows the type of household income by source. Monthly household income by source of income and type of dwelling. So people who live in condo have a bit more self-employment income as compared to the HDB people. Then when you look at their every monthly household income from non-employment sources. So basically people who live in condo have more income from not their job, but from other places, let's say investment, from rental property, this kind, as compared to people who live in HDB. So when people say in order to do well in Singapore, you have to have a high pay. Actually, I think the equation is not the high pay. It's more about where else can you get your money from, like maybe your side hustles, your investment and stuff. Then when you look at the second chart, this super big yellow bar is basically like government transfers. Income from other sources include government transfers, contribution from children, relative friends, pension, social assistance. So the not so well off Singaporeans, they get more money from government, from other sources that's not related to investment. Then for people who live in condo, they get more money. Yeah, the percentage is a bit smaller. So in order to do well, you can't just depend on your job. You have to rely on something else to earn more income. Yeah, so that's how Pundi do so well. I think his job is only 20-30% of his income.
Wait, don't whack me again.
So when you see let's say Chris Honey Money, he go and optimize this, optimize that, right? Then you say, oh, you go and waste so much time. Why you do so much, got all this small stuff, earn that $100, $200 here and there. But I think it all adds up, right? Especially if you do this kind of thing over these past 2 years where interest rates was high. Right, the banks were giving $500, $600 welcome gift, or even if you lock your money in for 3-4 months, you get that money. That money, you take it, you go and compound it in the S&P, not guaranteed but average, let's say 10%. It's also good money as compared to someone who doesn't do it. Or even if you invest in Bundes, Nvidia, you can get way bigger returns, then you continue to compound.
I think for Honey Money, that's his full-time job. Can't really say that he's wasting time. Of course, for him, he compounds even more, right? Because after he found out how to do it, he advised people how to do it. He also earned income from there. So it's a stack. I think I learned this principle kind of a bit later in my life. I think it's great if you have a skill set, right? And you have another skill set that helps you to amplify or stack the first skill set. So the earlier you learn this, right, the faster you can increase your earning capabilities. Yeah, so for me, right, specifically, if I only know how to teach, then I earn a decent income, I would say. But if I know how to teach and I know how to market myself, then that is a exponential increase from there, right? And then the last one, if I know how to teach, I know how to market myself, and I'm also a very good salesperson. Wow, boom. That will be God level already.
Life hacks.
Yeah, so you the more you stack, the better it is. And I see this increase as exponential because most people tend to see skill set as isolated. So you say, oh, you optimize this little thing. But this honey money example, right, is a very good one. So he optimized these little things, right? But he put it through his amplifier, his YouTube channel. So that tiny increase, right, like 1%, he amplify it to his like 30,000 subscribers. Ding, and then he sells the course, how to do it, to the subscribers. And then there's like that 1% become like 200-300%. You must always look at the underlying, like why would people spend time doing these things? Yeah, if it's like only optimizing for 1-2%, nobody will spend the bulk of their life doing that. But I guess there will be people doing that lah. Like they just optimize 1-2%. You're not optimizing your time. You're optimizing your money like 1-2%, but your time you chui 50%. Also not a very good trade lah. So I think we have to consider all factors: time, money, attention. Like what's the good balance?
So with that in mind, I think that's great advice, and we'll see you guys in the next episode. Goodbye.